The first sign wasn't fire. It was silence. At 3:14 Universal Time Coordinated, every deep space listening station on Earth went quiet at the exact same moment. No static. No warning tones. No emergency pings. Just absence. For 11 seconds, the universe felt empty. Then the alarms hit. Hard. Inside NASA's Tycho monitoring array, senior analyst Marcus Hale froze as his console lit up like a dying star. Red alerts cascaded across every screen, all coming from the Lunar Farside Mining Network, ALIO stations, deep-bore facilities, and automated relay hubs. 14 sites. All offline. Simultaneously. That alone should have been impossible. But what made Marcus's stomach drop was the message fragments bleeding through the corrupted feeds. Each transmission was broken, scrambled, torn apart mid-sentence. But every single one ended the same way. It's hunting us. Marcus leaned forward. Replay ALIO's 9 emergency channel. The system hesitated. Then complied. The speakers in the control room crackled to life. At first, static. Then metallic screaming, like steel bending under impossible force. Then voices. Men shouting coordinates. Someone crying for oxygen. A distant explosion that rattled the recording itself. And beneath it all, a low sound. Deep. Rhythmic. Almost like breathing. But too large. Too slow. Too deliberate. Marcus felt his hands go cold. Enhance audio gain on that low frequency, he said. The technician hesitated. Sir, we don't have a. Do it. The sound deepened. It wasn't breathing. It was something moving through structure. Through rock. Through metal. Like the moon itself was resonating under weight it was never meant to carry. Then came ALIO's 9's final transmission. A woman's voice. Raw panic. Barely holding together. We breached the cavern at 2.8 kilometers. We found something buried in the ice layer. It's awake. No, it's moving. A deafening crash cut her off. Someone screamed in the background. Not human fear. Something deeper. Primal. Then her voice returned, trembling so hard it distorted. Dear God, it's a dragon. The transmission shattered into static. Silence returned. But this time it felt heavier. Like the absence of something that had just opened its eyes. Marcus didn't speak for a moment. Neither did anyone else. Then a junior operator whispered, "That's not possible, dragons aren't." Marcus raised a hand. He couldn't take his eyes off the monitor. Because the lunar telescope feed had auto-locked onto a moving thermal signature on the moon's far side. At first it looked like a geological anomaly. Then it shifted. And the shape became clear. Massive. Curved. Coiling across the lunar surface like something alive crawling beneath dust and stone. Infrared imaging sharpened automatically. The object resolved into impossible detail. A body. Scaled. Wings folded against a frame that stretched nearly 2 kilometers across. And heat, impossibly high heat, pulsing from within it like a contained star. Marcus whispered, "Tell me that's a fault line." No one answered. The system overrode manual control. It enhanced the image further. The creature's head turned. Slowly. Deliberately. As if it knew it was being watched. Then its eyes opened. Twin points of molten light burned directly into the telescope feed. Every monitor in the room flickered. Several exploded. A technician stumbled backward. "We're getting saturation spikes across all orbital sensors, whatever that is, it's." The sentence died as every screen in the facility simultaneously switched to a single incoming data packet. Unrequested. Untraceable. Unstoppable. Marcus stepped forward, heart hammering. The file opened itself. A classification header appeared in red. Origin database, PI Civilization Earth Archive. Status, locked. Then another line typed itself beneath it. Access granted, by external authority. Marcus went pale. "That's not us," he whispered. The file continued opening. Ancient satellite imagery. Impossible geological scans. Fossil records that predated known human evolution. And then, a label appeared across every screen. Species designation. Draconis Imperial. Marcus read it aloud slowly. Draconis? Imperial? The junior operator shook his head. "That's not in any biological registry. That's mythological classification, dragons aren't real." Marcus didn't respond. Because more text was appearing. Status. Extinct on Earth. A wave of relief tried to rise in the room. But it died immediately. Because the next line replaced it. As if someone, or something, had rewritten history in real time. Status. Returned. Every alarm in the building went off at once. Not computer-generated. Manual overrides failing. Locked systems unlocking themselves. And then the final sensor feed from lunar orbit stabilized. One clean image. No noise. No distortion. Just perfect clarity. The creature on the moon lifted its head fully toward Earth. And began to move. Marcus took a step back. Someone whispered, "What do we do?" Marcus didn't look away from the screen. Because across every satellite feed, across every military monitoring station, across every civilian emergency network, one thing was now visible. Something ancient had just remembered Earth existed. And it was coming back. Fast. 3 hours after the lunar blackout, the world officially learned nothing. That was the plan. Inside the White House Situation Room, the emergency briefing was already scripted before most nations even detected the anomaly. Every line had been written, rewritten, and sanitized in advance. A mining accident. A communication failure. Solar interference. Anything except the truth. At 7:22 Universal Time Coordinated, the President of the United States appeared on global broadcast feeds, his expression carefully neutral, his voice calm in a way that had been rehearsed too many times. "There is no extraterrestrial threat," he stated. "Preliminary assessments confirm a reactor malfunction at an automated mining installation on the lunar far side." The words were broadcast in every language within seconds. And in underground facilities across North America, Europe, and Asia, senior analysts watched the statement in silence. Marcus Hale didn't believe in conspiracy theories. But he did believe in sensor data. And right now, all sensor data was screaming the same thing. Something on the moon had just shut down half of Earth's orbital network without touching a single satellite physically. That wasn't a mining accident. That was dominance. Marcus stood in a secured corridor beneath NORAD, staring at a sealed blast door labeled only with a black numeral, 7. 2 armed guards watched him approach. "No clearance," one said automatically. Marcus held up his credentials. "They told me to come." A pause. Then the door unlocked. Inside, the air changed immediately. Colder. Sterile. Old. Vault 7 wasn't on any public blueprint. It didn't officially exist in any government record accessible above level Omega clearance. Even most senior military officers were never briefed on it. Marcus stepped inside. The room was circular, carved into bedrock, lined with sealed archival containers older than modern computing itself. And at the center stood a single figure. General Evelyn Ross. She didn't look like a typical general. No polished uniform. No ceremonial decorations. Just a gray field jacket, sleeves rolled up, and eyes that looked like they had already survived the end of the world once before. "You're Marcus Hale," she said without looking at him. "Yes, You're the one who decoded Alios 9's last signal." Marcus hesitated. "Partially. The rest was corrupted." Ross finally turned. "You decoded enough." She motioned toward the wall. A holographic projector flickered to life. At first, it showed lunar terrain. Then deeper. Beneath the surface. Marcus stepped forward instinctively. "What am I looking at?" "Structure mapping," Ross said. The image zoomed inward. Massive tunnels beneath the moon's crust. Not natural. Precisely engineered. Geometry too perfect for erosion, too complex for human design. And at the center, a chamber. Miles wide. Filled with skeletal remains. Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Those are bones." Ross nodded. "Dragon remains." A long silence followed. Then Marcus forced the words out. "Dragons aren't real." Ross gave a faint, humorless smile. "That depends on when you stopped looking at classified history." She tapped a control. The hologram shifted. Not modern Earth. Ancient Earth. Continents partially reshaped by unknown impacts. Atmospheric distortions suggesting large-scale thermal warfare. Entire ecosystems burned into glass-like deserts. And moving across it. Massive winged silhouettes. Not fantasy illustrations. Not myth. Biological accuracy reconstructions derived from fossilized atmospheric pressure fractures and thermal imprint patterns. Marcus took a step back. "This is impossible." Ross didn't respond immediately. Then she said, 60,000 years ago, something arrived in this system." She zoomed in on the largest silhouette. A dragon-like entity, kilometers long, descending through atmosphere like a falling star. They didn't come to destroy Earth, Ross continued. At least, not initially. The next image appeared. Human settlements. Primitive cities. Then the creatures arriving over them. And humans, Ross said quietly, were not the dominant species. Marcus swallowed hard. We were prey. Ross nodded once. Domestic livestock. Cultivated biological resource. The dragons didn't hunt for survival. She paused. They farmed. The room felt smaller. Marcus stared at the hologram, trying to reject it, but the data overlays kept confirming authenticity, stratified isotopic evidence, fossil burn patterns, genetic bottlenecks in ancient human DNA. It all aligned too perfectly. So what happened? Marcus asked. Ross's expression hardened. That's the part they erased. She switched the projection again. Now, war. Not human civilization against dragons alone, but something else. Massive structures built by early humans. Weaponized atmospheric disruptors. Crude but desperate orbital platforms made from scavenged planetary debris. And then, Ross said, we learned. The image zoomed further. A dead dragon, collapsed across a scorched continent. Its skull fractured. Its wings torn apart. Surrounded by human survivors standing over improvised weapons. Humans stopped running, Ross said. We adapted. We studied them. Their biology. Their weaknesses. Their flight patterns. Their neural response to atmospheric pressure changes. Marcus whispered, we fought back. Ross nodded. And we won. A long silence followed. Then alarms echoed faintly through the facility above them. Ross didn't react. But Marcus did. What was that? Ross looked at the ceiling. They found us again. A new alert flashed across the hologram. Orbital sensors reactivating. Unidentified mass entering Earth's upper atmosphere. High thermal signature. Biological. And enormous. Marcus stared at the data. Is it one of them? Ross shook her head slowly. No. A pause. Then she added quietly. It's the one that survived. The object entered Earth's atmosphere at 7:49 Universal Time Coordinated. No reentry burn. No fragmentation. Just a clean, impossible descent through layers of air that should have torn it apart instantly. Every military radar system across the planet locked onto it within seconds. Then began failing within seconds after that. NORAD's main display flickered violently as tracking data corrupted in real time. Satellite feeds froze, resumed, then froze again. Entire orbital constellations blinked out of alignment as if something passing through the sky was rewriting their position. Marcus stood behind General Ross in Vault 7, watching the data collapse into noise. It's not a meteor, a technician said shakily. It's controlled descent. Ross didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the central projection. The incoming mass resolved slowly. At first, it looked like a distortion in atmospheric heat layers. Then a silhouette formed. Wings. Massive. Spanning hundreds of kilometers of cloud cover. A body beneath it coiled like a living continent. And then, the transmission began. Not through radio. Not through satellites. Through every screen on Earth at once. Phones lit up in people's hands. Televisions flickered in abandoned homes. Car dashboards glowed in motionless traffic jams. Even disconnected systems powered on briefly just to display the same message. Burning red text. We have returned for our livestock. Panic erupted instantly. In every capital city, emergency systems overloaded within minutes. Governments attempted shutdown protocols, but access permissions failed one after another. It was as if the message had bypassed all technological barriers and spoken directly into infrastructure itself. Marcus felt a chill run through him. This isn't broadcast interference, he said. It's system takeover. Ross nodded once. Yes. The sky outside the facility darkened unnaturally as cloud systems twisted. Weather satellites reported rapid atmospheric compression over the Atlantic Ocean, as if something enormous was displacing air without physically touching it. Then the object became visible to ground observers. A dragon. Not a mythological reconstruction. Not an ancient fossil interpretation. A living, moving organism the size of a small moon descending through the upper atmosphere like a predator returning to its feeding ground. Its wings did not flap. They shifted gravitational fields around them. Storm systems collapsed and reformed around its motion. Entire aircraft squadrons lost navigation mid-flight. Then the creature opened its eyes. And the world saw it. Twin luminous cores burning like collapsing stars. Each blink caused electromagnetic surges across continents. Marcus whispered, "That's what Helios 9 saw." Ross's jaw tightened. Yes. Outside, sirens began to wail across multiple cities. Not coordinated. Not controlled. Just instinctive human reaction to something fundamentally wrong in the sky. The dragon descended further. Its voice arrived next. Not sound. Not vibration. A cognitive imprint forced into perception itself. Every human who heard it experienced the same thought simultaneously. You belong below. Inside NORAD, systems began failing again. Backup generators kicked in automatically, then shut down without command input. Even analog systems, mechanical switches, manual locks, began to jam as if physical reality was resisting operation. Marcus turned to Ross. "We can't fight that," he said. Ross finally exhaled slowly. Not with anything conventional. A deep rumble echoed through the facility. Not from outside. From below. Marcus looked down instinctively. What was that? Ross walked toward a sealed elevator shaft embedded in the bunker floor. "Something we buried," she said. The elevator doors opened without input. Inside was darkness. An old marking scratched into the metal walls, symbols Marcus didn't recognize but instinctively understood as predatory intent. He followed her down. The lift descended far deeper than standard underground levels. Past reinforced military infrastructure. Past geological bedrock. Into structures that predated modern excavation records entirely. Finally, it stopped. The doors opened. Marcus stepped out, and froze. A massive chamber stretched out before him, illuminated by cold blue lighting. At its center lay something impossible. A skeletal frame. Not human. Not machine. A dragon. But unlike the one in orbit, this one was dead beyond doubt. Its bones were reinforced with mechanical components, ancient alloys fused into biological structure. Its wings were partially reconstructed with weaponized frameworks. Its chest cavity housed a dormant propulsion core. Marcus turned slowly. "You built this?" Ross shook her head. "We didn't build it," she corrected. "We repurposed it." A technician nearby activated a console. Power surged through the chamber. The dragon skeleton's eyes flickered. Then ignited. A low hum filled the room as systems that should not have functioned after millennia came online in seconds. Marcus stepped back. "That thing is a weapon." Ross looked at him directly. "That thing is a message." Above them, alarms spiked again. The descending dragon had reached the lower stratosphere. Atmospheric pressure reports collapsed. Then a new signal appeared across all systems. A secondary message from the invading entity. It translated automatically. "This world still remembers fear." Ross smiled faintly for the first time. "So do we," she said. And the dead dragon beneath them began to move. The moment the buried engine awakened, the entire underground facility changed its rhythm. Lights shifted from emergency red to deep cobalt blue. Seals unlocked in sequence without human input. Systems that had been dormant for decades began self-initializing like something long asleep was finally being given permission to wake. Marcus felt the vibration through the floor before he understood what was happening. The dragon skeleton wasn't just powering on. It was remembering how to function. Inside the massive chamber, the mechanical framework fused into the ancient bones began to glow with internal energy. Not electricity. Not fuel combustion. Something older, like a contained atmospheric storm being forced into a body that was never meant to die. Commander Kane Mercer stood on the elevated platform overlooking the structure. Marcus hadn't seen him enter. No one had. One moment the platform was empty. The next, Kane was there, armored, scarred, watching the awakening with the calm of someone observing an old tool being picked up again. "You brought civilians into the chamber," Ross said sharply. Kane didn't look at her. "He's not a civilian. He's a witness." Marcus swallowed. "To what?" Kane finally turned. His eyes were tired in a way that didn't belong to a modern soldier. Too many years behind them. Too many things seen that should not exist in any rational universe. "To what happens when predators come home," Kane said. A deep mechanical pulse echoed through the chamber. The dragon skeleton's wings flexed. Dust from centuries of burial fell in sheets from its frame. Marcus took a step back. "That thing is dead." Kane gave a short laugh. "So are we. Doesn't stop either of us from moving." Ross crossed her arms. "We don't have time for philosophy. The target is in upper atmosphere." Kane nodded once. I know. On the main display, orbital tracking data finally stabilized long enough to show the invading dragon clearly. It had descended into the upper stratosphere and was now circling Earth like a wounded god preparing to strike. Its presence distorted weather patterns across continents. Hurricanes reversed direction. Jet streams collapsed. Entire air corridors became impassable. And then it spoke again. Not to machines this time. To minds. Every person within a wide geographic radius experienced the same sensation. Hunger being remembered. Marcus staggered slightly. It's trying to trigger instinctive fear responses. Ross nodded. Psychological dominance. Same tactic they used thousands of years ago. Kane stepped forward. Wrong, he said. Everyone turned to him. The old ones didn't rely on fear, Kane continued. They relied on certainty. They made humans believe survival wasn't possible. He looked at the awakening dragon construct. This one's going to learn doubt. A technician shouted from the console. Atmospheric breach imminent. It's preparing a thermal descent strike. On the screen, the invading dragon opened its jaws. A concentration of energy formed in its throat, heat compression so intense it bent visible light. The oceans below began to boil in anticipation of release. Cities along the projected path began mass evacuation. But Kane didn't move. He placed a hand on the railing. Wake it fully, he ordered. Ross hesitated. If we fully sink the neural lattice. I know what it risks, Kane interrupted. Do it. The technician looked at Ross. Ross nodded once. Full activation. Power surged. The buried dragon construct roared. It wasn't sound, it was structural vibration resonating through the entire underground complex. Concrete cracked in distant tunnels. Reinforced steel supports groaned. And then the skeleton lifted itself. Not physically climbing, but rising through controlled anti-gravity displacement generated by its internal core. Marcus stared in disbelief as the ancient weapon rose from its resting place, wings spreading fully for the first time in millennia. Kane stepped onto its spine like it was solid ground. You're riding that? Marcus asked. Kane glanced back. I don't ride it. I aim it. Above Earth, the invading dragon initiated descent. A beam of superheated atmospheric plasma fired downward, tearing through cloud layers like a blade through fabric. But before it reached the surface, something rose to meet it. The reanimated dragon construct shot upward from the underground launch shaft, breaking through rock, soil, and atmosphere in a single accelerating motion. It met the incoming attack head-on. Impact. The sky lit up over the Atlantic in a flash brighter than sunrise. Shockwaves rippled across the ocean surface, flattening storm systems in seconds. Marcus shielded his eyes as sensors overloaded. When the display stabilized again, both dragons were visible in near-orbital space. The invading one recoiled. For the first time, it had been physically resisted. Kane's voice came through internal comms, calm as ever. Target is reacting. Ross narrowed her eyes. It's adapting. Marcus watched the exchange carefully. No, it's recognizing. The invading dragon hesitated. A microsecond. But enough. Enough for memory. Enough for fear. Its massive head turned slightly. And Marcus saw it clearly. Recognition. Not of technology. Not of weapons. But of something far older. The thing it had once hunted. Kane raised the weapon embedded in the construct's neural spine. Let's remind it, he said quietly, why Earth stopped being prey. And the dead dragon surged forward into the sky. The sky over the Atlantic had become something no longer fully natural. Cloud systems rotated in broken spirals, torn apart and reassembled by forces that ignored meteorology. Lightning struck upward instead of downward. The ocean below boiled in scattered rings where shockwaves had carved invisible wounds into the surface. And at the center of it all, two dragons circled each other in low orbit. One alive. One dead. But neither behaving like anything Earth had ever classified as natural combat. Kane stood atop the reanimated construct's spine, braced against winds that should have stripped flesh from bone. The ancient armor embedded in the dragon's skeletal frame hummed with controlled energy, stabilizing gravity around its body like a second atmosphere. Below him, Marcus watched from the command display in Vault 7, his face pale under flickering light. Ross stood beside him, arms folded, expression unreadable. They're matching speed, Marcus said. The living one isn't retreating anymore. No, Ross replied quietly. It's deciding. On screen, the invading dragon shifted its flight pattern. Its earlier arrogance, its slow, dominating descent, had vanished. Now it moved with caution. With calculation. It had been hurt. And it was no longer certain by what. The reanimated construct surged forward again. No roar this time. Just acceleration. Its wings didn't beat, they bent space around them, folding atmospheric resistance into controlled collapse. The distance between the two entities closed in seconds. Then impact. They collided mid-orbit with enough force to fracture ionized air into visible shock lattices. Space debris erupted outward like shattered glass. Marcus staggered. We're losing telemetry again. Ross didn't look away. Keep it steady. Kane's voice crackled through the internal link. Target is reinforced, he said calmly. It's adapting faster than expected. The invading dragon pulled back, its massive wings stabilizing it against vacuum turbulence. Its eyes locked onto Kane's construct. And for the first time, it hesitated. Not fear. Recognition. Marcus saw it too. It's analyzing the skeleton. Ross nodded. It remembers what we did to its kind. A new transmission attempt began from the invading entity. But this time, it wasn't broadcast dominance. It was negotiation. The message appeared fragmented across systems, as if forced through resistance. This world should be dead. Kane laughed softly at that. Yeah, he muttered. We heard that before. He slammed his hand onto the spine control interface. The construct responded instantly. Its chest cavity opened slightly, revealing the core weapon embedded within, an ancient fusion of biological and mechanical engineering that pulsed like a contained star. Marcus's eyes widened. That's not standard energy output. Ross answered before he could finish. It's planetary grade. The dragon construct fired. Not a beam. Not a projectile. A concentrated collapse of atmospheric pressure, launched as a spear of compressed reality. It struck the invading dragon directly. For a moment, everything froze. The impact point stopped moving. Clouds around Earth's upper atmosphere stalled mid-rotation. Even satellite feeds glitched as if reality itself had paused to register what had just happened. Then the invading dragon screamed. Not in pain alone. In disbelief. Its massive form was pushed backward, tumbling through orbital space, shedding fragments of scaled armor that burned like meteors as they fell toward Earth. Marcus whispered, "We hit it." Ross exhaled slowly. "We wounded it." Kane steadied himself on the construct's spine. "Good," he said. "Now it understands the rules." The invading dragon stabilized again, but slower this time. Weaker. Its movements less absolute. It began retreating. Not turning tail. Not fleeing blindly. Strategic withdrawal. Marcus stared at the screen in shock. "It's leaving orbit." Ross narrowed her eyes. "No." She pointed at a secondary sensor feed. Deep space arrays. Multiple incoming signals. Marcus froze. "That's not one." Kane's voice turned colder. "No," he confirmed. "It never was." The invading dragon had stopped fighting. Because something behind it was now visible. Far beyond Earth's orbit, massive silhouettes were emerging from deep space. Shapes similar in structure. Similar in scale. Dozens. Then hundreds. A fleet. The first dragon, the wounded one, sent a final transmission. This time, it was not directed at Earth systems. It was directed outward. A warning. Marcus read the translation as it stabilized. Do not approach the blue world. It remembers US. Silence filled Vault 7. Even the systems seemed to hesitate. Ross slowly straightened. "So that's it," she said quietly. Marcus turned toward her. "What is?" Ross looked at the incoming fleet on the display. The reason they stopped coming. Kane tightened his grip on the control spine. "Not fear," he said. "Experience." The reanimated dragon construct lifted itself higher into orbit, positioning between Earth and the approaching fleet like a broken shield refusing to fall. Marcus swallowed hard. "We're outnumbered." Kane shook his head. "No." He looked at Earth below. Cities still burning from atmospheric shockwaves. Oceans still boiling in residual heat patterns. But alive. Still standing. We're just getting started. The first of the approaching dragons crossed the boundary of detection range. And Earth answered. Every hidden system. Every buried weapon. Every forgotten defense humanity had spent millennia building in silence. Began to wake. Kane activated the final command sequence. Across the planet, Dormant signals flared to life in synchronized response. A single message broadcast into space. Not a warning. Not a plea. A declaration. Oath is not your pasture. The reanimated dragon roared. And for the first time in recorded galactic history, the hunters began to learn what it meant to be hunted.